welcome back to another episode of
The Fuzzy Pod.
Today is another deep dive into the tragic lives of American Girl dolls. We are going to be focusing on the lives of two different girls today. We each chose one, and I don't think we've discussed, no, at this point, we know who each person's doing. I took on the life of Kirsten Larson. Now, if you are watching on YouTube, we should probably talk about what's happening here. My fit. I had no idea what I was going to be wearing about 10 minutes before the pod, and then I remembered that this dress existed in the back of my closet.
You know, because we all have prairie dresses in the backs of our closets.
I can't remember exactly why I bought this dress. Now, don't come from my throats, historians, okay? Or you historical girlies that love your American Girl dolls. You know the era they're from. You know how they're supposed to dress. This is the closest thing I have. This is probably a little closer to 1900s, and Kirsten's story takes place about 50 or so years before that. But, you know, I tried my best. I tried to pay homage to my girl a little bit with the braids. She usually, just so you know, she usually wears her hair in little donut braids like this with bows. So that's one little fun fact about her.
Nice.
Not so tragic, but the tragic thing is I don't have enough hair to make a good donut. So it's pretty short, but it's good. It's good. Which we tried.
It's working.
And you also, like, what's it? Okay, so there's a name for this in Disneyland terms. When you, like, character tie maybe or something. When you dress up as a character, but not, like, the exact garb, but maybe you pick some of the colorings or the silhouettes or the shapes. Do you know what I'm referring to at all?
No, I have not a clue.
Okay, example, if you went to
no, I understand the concept. I don't know the word.
Yes, yeah. I don't know the word either. But I was gonna say that's kind of like more where you went with your fit today, and I love your fit for your character.
Well, let's just focus on yours because yours is fire.
Oh, your skirt was like feeling like Josefina.
Yeah, but I've worn this on the pod like 3 times already.
You didn't have historically accurate garb hanging in the back of your closet?
However, Megan may have historical garb in her closet. Now, is it the accurate historical garb?
No.
But at least she had it.
We tried something.
Yeah. She tried. And that's all that matters.
I'm very excited about this episode, clearly, as you can tell. And I just can't wait to hear about the research that you did and hear more about our girl, Josefina.
Josefina Montoya.
Ooh!
Our girly pop. Yeah, so that's the character that I'm going to be talking about. And I think we'll just go ahead and dive in.
Let's do it.
I'm going to start out with some quick facts. And then we have a story. So we're going to try. There is obviously, just to preface both of our stories, there's so much that goes into the stories of these dolls. I'm sure we're going to miss a lot. There are many great creators out there that are doing lots of American Girl doll content. And there's some deep dives that are like 6 hours long.
6 hours on one character.
And we're doing a singular character.
2 in one podcast. So just keep that in
mind.
So
just keep that in mind that we're probably going to not share a lot of every single aspect of their lives, but we're going to try.
Yeah.
Okay, so some quick facts about Josefina is, I thought this was cool. They created like a new face mold for her. So like she has her own unique face mold, which I don't know if they do that with all the historical characters, but I remember whenever we originally researched our American Girl dolls, so we did an episode.
It was our second or third episode.
Yeah.
It's been a while now. And like it would be like, this doll has this, Samantha's face mold. Yes.
And so they like make molds specifically for those historical characters. So I thought that was cool. She was released in September 1997.
Hey, your birthday!
The year I was born. She's the only historical doll that is of Latin American descent, which is another reason why I picked her, because I was like, a Latina queen. Another fun fact. So I did do a tie-in with my outfit with my gold hoops because Josefina and Addie Walker are the only 2 characters with attached earrings.
Really?
So she is one of 2 characters that has like little gold hoops.
I love that.
Has some earrings.
I feel like we come out the womb and get pierced as babies.
Yeah. She was born March 15th, 1815. So she
She's old.
She's old.
She's crusty.
She really dislikes goats.
Just what? Hates goats?
She dislikes goats.
She must have some trauma tied to a
And
goat.
there's this specific goat that's on their family's like ranch that's called Florecito? No, Florecita, which is like,
Little flower?
yeah, flower.
Well, that's her maiden name.
And it's just this little mean black and white goat that she hates. I don't know, it bullies her, I guess.
Wait.
You've gotten bullied by a goat?
Actually, yes, I did. I talked about in the pod. I got a little too close and my nose did bleed. But not what I was going to say.
I made a sticker of that picture for my phone.
You did.
Just to send as reactions to people.
The moment was caught on camera because I was like, Cooper, get a picture of me and this goat. He's supposed to be really sweet. And then I got a little too close and he bucked me. And that moment was caught on photo. And it is quite a photo. And now a sticker in Maddie's collection. So neither one of us had Josefina, the doll, growing up. But am I making this up? Did she have a tiny goat doll with her?
I feel like she did.
Did they tie her with the one she hates the most?
Well, okay. So no, because the mean goat had a baby goat
Oh.
that she
Okay.
liked. She liked okay.
Okay.
She named it and everything.
Okay, so that was her bestie, probably.
Yeah, sombrito or something like that. Oh, I didn't write that down. I didn't write that down.
Tiny. There's too much.
There was too much. And lastly, obviously, I mentioned that she is Latina. The books are written in English, but I thought it was fun because they like incorporate some Spanish words into the mix in the books. And then like they had like a glossary in the back with like translations. Obviously, like they also just had like a full translated version in Spanish, but I thought it was fun that for like the English version of the books, they still like tried to include some like Spanish words, and
I love
that was
that.
fun. So those are my fun facts. All right, let's begin with Josefina Montoya's story. So her story begins on a rancho in 1824, just outside Santa Fe, New Mexico. At this time in history, however, the territory was under Mexican rule, and it came just a few years after Mexico's independence from Spanish colonialism. So
Spain was colonizing everyone.
you said it. History. So this was before like New Mexico was a part of like U.S. territory, and so it was still a part of Mexico. So Josefina is a 9-year-old Mexican girl who lives with her father and her 3 sisters and some additional extended family, which include like her oldest sister and her husband and her 2 kids. And most recently includes her tia Dolores, her tia, who is her mother's sister, who recently came back into town. She rolled up. And while her story for us begins in 1825, we really see Josefina's story take shape the year prior because her mom actually passed away the summer after she turned 8.
Oh, I was wondering because you just said her dad, and I was like, "Where's Mama?" But I'm not gonna ask until she tells me.
Mama.
Oh no,
Mama.
Did it say how her mother passed?
There actually is no known cause.
Oh my gosh.
They didn't give us a reason,
Oh
just
my
that she passed
gosh.
away because the story starts in the year 1825. So
Yeah.
it's the year prior that the mom passes away. So we don't really get that part of the story other than it's been a really rough year. The whole family's been grieving. You know, all the daughters are having to kind of pick up the slack of
Yeah.
like taking care of the house and all the chores and things, but they don't really, their mom didn't get to teach them everything quite yet. And so that's kind of where like the extended family comes in to kind of pick up the
Aw,
slack.
That's
but
why
they're
the
all
Dia's rolling
grieving.
into town.
Mm-hmm. So losing her mother was really, she was young, you know? So I think like for her, it was like there was still so much that she needed to learn. And like just being a young girl and losing your mom is like very, it's tragic to lose your mom
Mhm.
regardless, but being that young too. And so she's really trying to figure out and navigate like the uncertainty and really feeling lost during this time. So a cute thing that she does though, because she really wants to keep her like mother's memory alive, is she has like this little memory box that was like belonged to her mom that she keeps little trinkets or things that remind her of her mom. And she
Aw.
keeps them in this little box that she keeps by her bedside table.
So sweet.
And eventually she like opens it up to like where she adds memories from like other family members, but it starts out just like being a memory box dedicated to her mom.
What kinds of things are in there? Does it say?
There's like, yeah, it did. There was like a ceramic like plate, but it doesn't say like who they belong to. So
Yeah.
like, because it like specifies like, it started out just being for her mom, but then she also put things in there that were from like other family members. I was like, I don't know what's like from her mom. Like there's so many details. It's actually insane.
American Girl doll lore. When we say it gets deep, it gets deep.
There's multiple books.
Multiple books per, especially for the historical girls.
Yeah, there's
per girl.
It's putting like Marvel Cinematic Universe to shame.
For real. Oh my gosh.
They need to make more movies.
They truly do.
So, a little bit about Josefina and who she is. So, she is described as a very thoughtful, observant, and patient young girl.
Aww.
She's often seen just simply observing her surroundings and sitting in nature, just kind of enjoying like what's around her and just really being like in the peace and the quiet. And that's kind of where she enjoys being. But also, I feel like a little bit of context too, like during this time and like culturally and all these like factors, young girls were not really supposed to be speaking to adults or like speaking up. Like you were supposed to just be kind of like docile, like very like respectful. Like you don't speak to an adult unless they speak to you. Like you don't interrupt, obviously. So it was like a lot of, I think, expectations of how like a young girl was supposed to act. So I think that also kind of like plays into her just being kind of like more like quiet and just kind of is like very shy.
It was almost like looked down upon. We've seen from like other dolls we looked into, and they were like more bold and curious and adventurous. And it was like, that's not what ladies do.
That's not what ladies do, and you're trash. She also really enjoyed getting to take care of her mother's garden. So her mother really loved to garden and planted like a bunch of flowers. Tia Dolores actually would send like different seeds and stuff like that she lived in Mexico City. So she would send like different seeds to her sister so that she could plant them in her garden.
Oh.
So she really enjoyed gardening. And so that's something like Josefina kind of took on and like wanted to help take care of because that was something her mom really loved.
She wanted to like keep her legacy alive in so many ways.
I know. It's so sweet. It's so sweet. So Josefina doesn't really have like the best perspective of herself. Like she doesn't really feel like she's super brave or courageous. And she wishes that she was. And she's like extremely shy. Obviously, again, like she was taught not to speak up and be heard. But even like compared to her sisters, like I think she felt like she was like more shy and reserved until she was around family and friends. It was more in front of like strangers. Like she, Hannah Montana Double Life, when she was around her sisters, like she was so much fun, so playful, had like a great sense of humor, and would often use humor to break up fights between her sisters.
Honestly, like she sounds super relatable to how I felt as a child in a lot of ways. As far as like, I don't really know, both of us truly as kids were very shy in front of strangers, like to the point where we would like not talk to them and just like nod our heads.
Yeah.
But then when we were like with our friends or people we felt safe with their home, we were so loud and wild.
We were wild and
we were just like Josefina.
Just like us for real. Why did we never, I'm surprised we never had her.
Me too.
As previously mentioned, Tia Dolores has recently moved in with them. She was living in Mexico City for many years and had actually never met Josefina. So she met Josefina is the youngest of the sisters. And she had met the other, like her other siblings before. But by the time Josefina was born, she was already living in Mexico City, taking care of an aunt. And when that aunt passed away, she was like, I should move back to Mexico City, be closer to my family, like my parents, but also help take care of my sister's family because, they've been going through a lot and they could use some help. The girls could use some help learning how to take care of the house and learn these things that their mom would have taught them.
Yeah.
And so she kind of steps in and takes on that role. But something else that she brings is a deeper love of music for Josefina because she
Oh.
plays piano. And so when she moves back, she has this like piano that she brought with her. And Josefina hears her playing the piano and is just enamored and like, I need to learn.
Yeah.
So eventually she teaches her how to play, and Josefina often likes playing songs that like her mom used to sing or taught her.
Stop.
So she'll often like play those songs and just really enjoys music. And it's one way that her and her Thea Dolores really connected. And then another thing too that Dolores brought for them was the girls were not necessarily like encouraged, or it wasn't prioritized for them to learn how to read or write. So like their mom didn't know how to read or write. And
Yeah.
so when she would write letters to her sister Dolores, she would have to dictate it and her husband would write it and then send the letters.
Yeah.
So I think she also wanted to encourage them to learn how to read and write as well.
Let's go. I feel like, I mean, it's only been a couple of these that we've done now, but it seems to be pretty classic that there is like an aunt in each of these young girls' lives who is kind of the one making waves, being more of an independent woman, breaking molds, and gets to be this like influence
Yes.
for like these young American girl dolls.
Yeah.
I forget their dolls sometimes. I did say that at the end to
These
remind myself.
young American
'Cause I'm
girl
getting
dolls.
really invested in their lives. I'm like over here like, oh my gosh, this is the sweetest thing. And then you're like,
It's
wait,
so sweet. It's fake, but
it's fake, it's fake, it's fake.
Yeah, what's interesting too, and I'm sure this is true for all of the dolls, but when I was doing research, like one of the resources that I used listed out all the people that they talked to help create her story.
Yeah.
And so it was like a lot of professors who, lived and worked in New Mexico and studied kind of like the history of New Mexico and like all that kind of stuff. So that was really interesting to me too, because I'm like, they really do seem to
Yes.
try to create a story that is as close to a real life situation.
Yeah. A real experience of a girl our age at the time we're like having these dolls at that time period in life. Like what was life in America like for that type of young
Mhm.
woman? Which, wow.
Or in Mexico.
Pop off. That's why American Girl doll is the GOAT. Like truly.
Yeah. No. And obviously if you listen to our first episode about the American Girl dolls, like we did talk about some of the controversies and things that they could be doing better, but they really did break the mold in a lot of ways of like trying to have more representation and like telling these stories and saying like, hey, girls can know history and that's cool too. Like,
Yeah. Girls can make their own stories and they don't just have to be mothers. Being a mother is amazing. But I feel like the opportunities of dolls that, we were seeing before, this was even, honestly, Barbie broke that mold first, but of just, hey, you don't just have to play with baby dolls.
Yep.
We've talked about this, but it was cool that American Girl doll kind of met you where you were at that time, where
Yeah.
Barbie felt aspirational.
100%.
And American Girl, like, this is who I could be today.
Yeah.
I could be very like her. I can
Yes.
be.
Whereas like with Barbie, it felt like, oh, like that's my future. Like,
yes.
oh, she's an adult.
Yeah. I'll get boobies one day.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Flat chesties. All right. Now.
Oh, no.
We got nothing. That's what I'm saying. So, Josefina, please correct me if I'm wrong, someone out there, but I literally went so far as to type in Josefina Montoya's trauma story. And like, obviously losing her mom was like very traumatic, but like there was nothing like super crazy after that. Now there is a little tea.
Okay, give me the cheese
little cheese made for you. So we all know and love our Thea Dolores at this point.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
Right? She's great. She has been a fantastic motherly figure for the girls. So much so that Thea Dolores becomes Mama Dolores.
I was holding my breath. No.
You heard it here first.
Just kidding.
She married what was her brother-in-law.
Stop. No. It's giving. We just watched The Boy and the Heron. It's giving that. It's like the same time period too, where there's just not a lot of options.
There's not a lot of options, right? So
could you imagine? That's you?
No, I don't want to imagine.
Marion Cooper. What? come, you raise my 3 fur babies. And then you
Like, that is so weird in today's world.
Yeah.
Like, that is so weird.
But they're probably like, we're
But,
the
like,
closest
then
people around.
it made sense.
And he's like, you're kind of close to my wife.
Yeah, exactly. You're a younger it was her younger sister, which for some reason makes it worse.
No,
it makes it worse.
Did they have kids together?
I didn't get any information on that, to be honest with you. I stopped it after I
Threw up a little. Just kidding.
Yeah. I have a feeling they did, though, because I'm going to be honest. She was not much older than the oldest daughter, Anna, who was married.
Yeah.
And she's 20.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They had to have had children, right? I didn't read
gosh,
past the 5th book.
If his oldest daughter is 20, he's got to be at least 40, right? Or how old do you think?
I don't know.
If they have kids, how young?
I don't know. Probably really young.
Not
Like people would get married at like 15.
Either way.
In the 1800s, they would get married young.
Oh.
The mortality,
So-
like how long people lived, I feel like wasn't that long.
Okay, so really her being 20 is like
She's
TikTok,
decrepit.
TikTok.
Yeah. Like she probably has like one egg left.
Spinster
Like who else is gonna marry her? She's a spinster.
at 20 is crazy. Oh my gosh.
Okay. So let's get into their love story because why not?
Oh gosh.
Why not? Okay.
Honestly, this is the juiciest thing.
I just can't. I was too stunned. Okay, so their romance began in January 1826.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So this is what? Mama died in 1823. So it's been 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Dolores has been living with them for like 2 years.
Yeah. Wait. So when she was taking care of her aunt in Mexico, she was really, really young.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, continue.
Mexico City.
Mexico
It
City.
was all Mexico. We see the romance begin they're having like a party for the Festival of the Three Kings, which is a holiday.
Yeah, it's a celebration that happens kind of around Christmas time, right? Like
it's
right after.
in January. Yeah. So Josefina is so excited for this party. Like everyone's excited. Everyone's hype. There's going to be dancing, but actually Josefina is too young to dance. There's like an age
Really?
threshold. Yeah.
Thou shalt not shake thy hips until you are 13 and ready to bear children.
Exactly, because if they're shaking their hips, they're trying to get
Yeah, that's
man.
the only reason you dance. What?
Obviously.
That's wild. That's
so
giving footloose.
it's before the party begins, and she's kind of hinting at her papa, like, oh, you should ask, Tia Dolores to dance.
She's the one.
Matchmaking.
Sis, I was about to ask how she felt about it,
No,
but she's all for
all
it.
on board.
Maybe she's just seen her dad just be really, sad and thinks that.
Well, and that's the thing. Papa's been sad.
Oh.
It's been sad. Sorry, I just hear Coco in my head. That's why I keep doing that.
Please stop, you're gonna make me cry.
I know that movie. I'm crying right now. So, yeah, like ever since Dolores has been around, like he's been, everyone's been happier because they've had someone there that reminds them of mom and like not in a weird way, but just like that's her sister and she's been there to help take care of them and like help figure things out, grieve together, all the things. So they've had like a lot of joy in their lives since she's come around. And so I think for Josefina and her sisters, they're like, oh, we don't want that joy to go away. So
the only way you can stay and live with us is if you get married to our father.
So Josefina starts scheming. Let's just call it what it is. She's scheming.
She's parent trapping.
And she, at this point, has been playing the piano for a while, but she's always been very shy. She's never really played in front of anyone. But she is encouraged to play the waltz at this party. And so she tells her Thea, she's like, oh, like, I can't have you sit next to me. I'll be too nervous. Like, you can't be near me when I'm playing. Like, you have to go dance. So she's setting it up.
Please.
And so then the party comes. Josefina gets on the piano and she sees the sparks flying between her dad and her Thea. And it's just,
wow.
It's just wow.
It's wow. It's very intertwined.
So after that, the next morning, her Thea Dolores comes to her and the other girls and is not looking too great. And they're like, what's going on? And she says, like, oh, like, basically, I said that I would stay until you guys didn't need me anymore.
Yeah.
It's giving Nanny McPhee. When you need me most, you won't want me. And when you want me most, you won't need me.
Wow.
Deep
What a
cut.
reference.
Deep cut. But she was like, you guys don't need me anymore. And I'm going to move. So they live just outside of Santa Fe. And she's like, I'm going to move to Santa Fe and take care of my parents. Like, they're getting older. Like, I need to take care of them. And you guys don't need me anymore. But Josefina's just like, this will not do, but I can't say anything because I am a wee child. I'm a little girl. I'm not allowed to speak.
Yeah.
I can't speak to adults.
Yeah.
So I can't say anything. But I know. She's like, facts, no cap. Papa loves Dolores.
On God.
On God. She said it like that. It's pretty crazy, I know. But she actually invented those phrases. Just a little 9-year-old Mexican girl.
She said, Daddy, you gotta go rizz her up.
Daddy-o.
Daddy, go rizz her up.
Daddy-o. You got that riz, Dad. Don't even worry about it. She's clearly in love with you.
Period.
Oh, and the other piece to it is Dolores is like, oh, I must go because you girls know how to take care of things now. I've taught you well. And I must leave because it's time for your father to find a new wife. And I would get in the way.
Oh my gosh.
Because she knows.
She feels it.
She feels the connection.
So she feels it's kind of wrong, maybe a little bit. Yeah.
I don't know. You tell me.
Okay, continue.
So Josefina is like, well, I know my dad loves her.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty confident that she loves him.
Yeah.
And she would want to stay. So at this point, they're like, okay, we only have like a few days. Like, how are we going to make sure that she doesn't leave? Like, her parents are coming up from Santa Fe. They're going to be here for a few days. It's obviously her parents are their grandparents. So they're like, okay, what are we going to do? Like, it's a perfect opportunity because dad can ask like our abuelo for her hand in marriage because he's going to be here.
Yeah.
But she's like set on like, I need to be there for my parents. I need to take care of them.
Yeah.
And so they're like, what do we do? Like, how, like, we can't like tell them anything. We can't like say like, Dad, you need to propose.
Yeah.
So then they involve another Thea.
Oh my gosh.
The dad's sister.
Oh my gosh.
And they're like, listen, Thea, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
We got to get them together. They clearly love each other. What's going to happen? So then they come up with the plan of like, oh, so the older sister, Anna, and her husband, who have the 2 kids, so they all live together. They are like, oh, it would actually be great if we could move to a bigger city so our kids could go to school.
Oh, okay.
So they're like, what if we just casually suggest like, hey, like, we'll come help take care of our like grandparents so that we can live there and our kids can go to school.
Yeah. And you can stay here.
Yeah. So then that leaves the door open for Dolores to be like, okay, I can stay.
Yeah.
So that's what they do. They hatch up a plan. They suggest it and they're like, yeah, it works for us. He asks the abuelo if he can marry the daughter or his daughter, Thea Dolores.
Does he go to Santa Fe with them or how does he ask?
No, they come there.
Oh,
because they were
there.
coming to pick Dolores
her
up.
That's right. Sorry. You said that.
Yeah. So they were coming from Santa Fe to pick up Dolores and all her shit.
Yeah. I thought they were sick, so I didn't think they could travel.
I don't think it's that they're sick.
They're
I
just
think
getting
they're old.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also why is she making them do that 15-mile trek when they're old? It's too long.
It's too much. And
it's a snowstorm.
Oh, it's a snowstorm?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Forgot to mention that. It's a snowstorm. Seemed irrelevant at the time.
So they were like, when Anna and her family decided to move, it was like, oh, we're doing this now. Like,
yes.
You don't really have an option to think like.
Yeah. Like, we're going.
Wow.
Yep.
And so then
she stays.
She stays.
He proposes. She says, yes, I get married.
Like, how soon do they get married?
I don't have their wedding date for you. I'm sorry.
Dang it.
I imagine it was pretty fast, though.
They consummated that night.
They probably got married there. So they went to the other Thea's house and like for tea.
Mm.
And then I think it's the grandfather like passes a note to Dolores, and she like opens it, and like this like little thing like falls out, and it's like
Check yes or no.
basically everything's done in notes. It's very interesting because whenever the dad wants to ask the father of the bride for her hand, he also writes a note.
No wonder Josefina's so quiet. No one's speaking in the house.
in the
They're all
household.
passing notes.
Not my Mexican family.
I'm crying.
Imagine.
No.
We'd probably get so much more communication done if we pass notes.
That's why, because they know. They talk over each other if they're anything like us.
But anyways, that is some of the story of Josefina Montoya.
Wow. Honestly, when it comes to American Girl dolls, there is sometimes just a line of tragedy after tragedy. But truly, like, after losing her mom, I feel like it's a pretty sweet story in the way that she tries to continue to like carry like on her mom's traditions and things that she loved.
So
And
sweet.
get to know her that way. And it was such a sweet story. I love it.
That's what I was saying.
love her.
I was like, where's the trauma? Where's the
mean,
deep trauma?
It's
But
pretty.
like it is like deep trauma, but I was like expecting more.
Oh, you want more?
I know, that's what I'm scared for.
Let
That's
me
why I
tell
said let
you.
me start.
Let me tell you about a girl named Kirsten Larson. Are
Give it
you
to me.
ready?
I'm not ready. Wait, I need a visual.
Okay, pull her up. So, as I said, my outfit's not very historically accurate. A lot more ruffles going on. She would have worn something more with like pantaloons underneath, a little more of a simplistic dress with also a high neck and an apron, most likely, because
okay, I remember her.
she is a woman. So, of course, she's out here helping with all the chores and things of that sort. But let's go ahead and get into
You need a
some-
bonnet.
a bonnet as well. I do not own a bonnet, dang it.
What are you doing out here, Megan?
What am I doing? Not owning a bonnet, but
We also should have put an apron on you.
oh my gosh. You know what? You wouldn't really even see it in the podcast. You're only really seeing from like my waist up.
No, but it's for your character.
Just
For you to
me.
feel it. Yeah.
Just so I can really embody this
The
9-year-old
character.
Swedish girl.
Yeah. All right.
All right. So Kirsten Larson. Okay, so Kirsten Larson was born on June 8th, 1845 in Sweden. She is described as very helpful, caring, and thoughtful, especially when it comes to her family. But Kirsten also loves to tell and keep secrets, okay? She loves a little chisme.
Ooh, a girl after my own heart.
Oh, truly a girl after our own hearts because her favorite color is also pink.
Heck yeah. Let's go.
And just a fun fact about the doll itself, she was one of the first 3 historical characters from American Girl doll.
Oh,
And,
wow.
yeah.
She's an OG.
She's an OG. And she represents the Western European immigration and the pioneer era. So she's our little pioneer, girl.
girly.
So Kirsten grew up in a small village in Sweden, the kind of village where like everybody kind of knows each other, okay? But the king of Sweden at the time ended up reducing the amount of farmland that people could have. So he divided it in half, which this is important because it made it really difficult for families to continue to live off their own land. Because sometimes if they had like, a poor harvest, it could risk starvation.
Yeah.
Like, they were dependent on that.
Oh
So
my gosh.
Kirsten's family decides that they're going to go ahead and make the move to America.
Wow.
So
Imagine in that time of history.
yeah,
In the 1800s being like, we're going to move to America. Like,
we don't know anything about
we
it.
know nothing.
We only know the letters that we get from our Uncle Olaf, who went a few years before us. And so Uncle Olaf is the one that's being like, hey, you guys should come out this way.
Wow.
There's like a lot of like rich land here in Minnesota. Come
Does
live
he
on my
sing?
farm. Does he what?
Does he sing?
Does he sing? No. Oh, like is he a snowman? Is that
Yeah.
what you're asking? No. Olaf, not Olaf.
Sound like you said Olaf.
It's very close. It's with a V, not an F. So, so he's basically like, come on over here. Like, I got rich farmland. I can honestly use your help. And so they begin their
He said
journey.
free labor.
He said, bring you and your 6 children and help me run this farm. So they begin their journey immigrating to America. Okay, so
Wow.
as you talked
Just
about,
incredible.
it's the
Sorry.
1800s, right?
I know. Like,
So getting from
starting
Sweden
the journey. Yeah.
to America. Okay, so
Wow.
During her family's journey, they are on board this big ship called the Eagle.
Okay.
And Kirsten ends up meeting another young Swedish girl named Marta. They're around the same age, and the two just quickly become like BFFs on this journey.
Aw.
So they love getting into trouble, exploring on the ship. Once they make
How
it to
long is the journey?
the journey, the journey I think is maybe around 3 months. It was long enough that Kirsten's entire family forgot her 9th birthday because they were on the journey. They
They lost
literally
track of time.
yeah, they forgot her 9th birthday during the trip, and so oopsie.
Yikes.
That's how long it was. So they get to New York, and when she gets to New York, she ends up saying her goodbyes to Marta, which was kind of sad because, they spent a lot of time together. They became really good friends. But the journey continues on. Their next stop is going to be Chicago. And who do they end up running into there? Marta and her family.
Aww.
So they're reunited once again. They end up taking a riverboat, and this is what's going to take them to Minnesota.
Minnesota.
Minnesota. Do you have friends in Minnesota? Are you trying? I can't do a Minnesota accent. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Okay.
No, I feel like that was good.
So
I
they
feel
get
like you got it. I don't think I have a good Minnesota accent. I just always say it that way.
so they're reunited. They're getting on this boat, this riverboat called the Red Wing, and they begin their journey to Minnesota. Well, it's just a couple days in, and Kirsten is looking for Marta, ready to play. Well,
Oh,
it
no.
turns out that she
No.
what?
She die on the journey.
Wait, let me tell a story.
Sorry.
Okay. So they're on the Red Wing. They're making their journey. She's
I
looking
can't
for her.
breathe,
She's not
Megan.
seeing her anywhere. And she finds Marta's dad and says, hey, like, where is she? And he goes, oh, she's really sick. Like, she's down like in the sick bay. And he's like, you should not go down there. But against his advice, like, she quickly runs down there to see her friend. And her friend Marta is not doing good. She's bent over. She's pale. Her lips are cracked. She's barely conscious enough to even notice that, like, her bestie's hanging, like, standing right there. And Marta's mom is there comforting Marta and treating her and being like, hey, like, Kirsten, you need to not be here. You need to go. Marta's mom is basically like, the only thing that you can be doing is just go pray for her. And so she's like, okay. So then the next morning, she's like hopeful. She runs down to where Marta was, and Marta's nowhere to be found.
Oh,
So
God.
she goes back
She's
up.
buried in the back.
She goes back up, and she's
They
like,
threw her off the riverboat.
she's looking around, and she sees Marta's parents, and they're standing there.
By the graveside.
And they're on a boat. And she goes,
They're
hey.
still on a boat?
Yeah, they're still on the boat.
Okay, so they did throw over the riverboat.
So we're in the boat, and she's like, hey, where's Marta? And all Marta's dad can do is point out to where some sailors are carrying a coffin. So her bestie died. She died of cholera.
They really did say throw overboard.
I wasn't gonna say anything. You just kept going, and I was like, I'll get you there. But no, you weren't entirely wrong. Marta did die tragically on the journey. What's so sad is like she was almost there.
My stomach hurts.
She went across the Eagle. She made it to New
What is
York.
cholera? I don't know.
So cholera is a bacterial disease causing severe diarrhea, dehydration, usually spread in water.
Oh,
So she drank some bad water. That's why she was all cracked
She
and
was
dry.
shitting herself on the boat.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. She was pooing herself.
Oh, that's really sad.
Oh,
She was so
she literally-
dehydrated.
She pooed herself to death.
Yeah.
Oh, no,
She was
Martha.
Marta's little tiny body who just
Oh, my-
traveled 3 months, probably pretty frail from being in the condition that it was on the Eagle for 3 months or whatever the journey was.
She was so young. She died of diarrhea.
Well, we have to move on, Maddie, because there's more.
No,
There's more to Kirsten's story. It can't end here with Marta. It can't. I'm so sorry.
glad I picked a upbeat story.
Maddie's crying. All right, let's talk about pioneer
My
life.
goodness.
So Kirsten and her family live in a one-room cabin on the Larson farm. And Kirsten has quite a few siblings. Like I said, Kirsten is very hardworking and helpful when it comes to her family. So she's kind of expected, as the oldest daughter, to help her mom out with the chores. And she also has a very young sibling, a little baby sister named Britta. So because her mom
Filter.
just had recent labor and delivery. So was her mom pregnant on the journey? When did Britta come? I'm just connecting this. Because Britta's a young baby. I'm like, so.
She gave birth on the riverboat.
She had to have. Oh my gosh. But because of that,
Do you think that they named her like Britta Filter because of the cholera, because of the water?
Please. That's where it comes from.
They invented Brita.
I'm deceased.
They invented the Brita filter.
There's a lot of work to be done on a homestead, okay? And so.
Yeah, people be glorifying that.
But it's
homestead
a lot.
life.
And Kirsten is having to step up because like her mom just like gave birth recently. And she's the oldest daughter. So it's like kind of like she's the one, expected to kind of take on these chores. But she's very, I wouldn't say like she's super like reluctant to do so. Like she's like willing. She's willing to like help her family out. But when she's not working on the farm, and her helping out with, family and everything, she's out. She loves exploring, okay? Now, she's also in school, so she is getting an education.
Oh, wow. Pop off, queen.
So Kirsten's not like a huge fan of school, though, especially with like English being her second language. And it doesn't help that her new teacher, Miss Winston, is also very strict. And plot twist, she also lives with her Uncle Olaf. She's like not like
she's
romantically
shacking
involved.
Up with him?
I think because he's like married too. Like she just like
they're shacking up together.
I guess the school teacher needed some place to live.
Side piece living with him.
Not confirmed. She just doesn't like that the strict teacher, who also kind of like put her on the spot and like corrected her when she's like,
no, kick her to the curb. Kick her to the curb, Olaf.
Eventually, though, Kirsten does come around to liking Miss Winston, but I understand why it took a second. Especially with her being really strict and like correcting her in front of the whole class. But I think overall,
it was like a power trip.
Yeah, I think overall she ended up really enjoying Miss Winston by the end of it all. Okay, so like I said, when she's not at school, when she's not helping out of the house, she likes to go out and explore a little bit. She loves animals. So there's one time she's out and she sees a young Indigenous girl around her age. And this is going to quickly become one of her best friends. Okay, so the young Indigenous girl that she sees, her name is Singing Bird. And when they first spot each other, they're both kind of like slightly taken aback, but Singing Bird's like frightened. So she ends up just like not responding to Kirsten, kind of like being like, hey, hello, whatever,
How's it going? Nice to see you.
She ends up kind of taking off. And Kirsten kind of follows some of her like footsteps and sees that some beads have like fallen. And so she ends up taking the beads and puts in its place a doll cake, which I don't really know what a doll cake is. I'm assuming it's like a little tiny cake that you would use for dolls and tea parties. So she puts that in its place. She comes back the next day and a duck feather has been placed there. So this begins
they start trading gifts.
An exchange, an exchanging of gifts. And that is kind of the beginning of their friendship. So one of the times, Kirsten sets out the gift and she decides, I'm going to stay. I'm going to wait it out. Singing Bird arrives and she's glad that she waited because this is like the first time that they're actually going to interact with each other. And they realize like, oh, hey, maybe like we could be friends. Like it's not so scary. Like let's get to know each other. Neither one of them like speak any. Yeah. They don't speak the same language. And so they're trying to communicate as well as they can with each other. But they are both just so fascinated with each other. Singing Bird, it points out she's really fascinated with Kirsten's braids, the ways that she loops them in her blonde hair. And one of the first like English words that they both share together is pretty to describe something. Slay. And that kind of comes back around when describing. I think like Kirsten was trying to compliment something of Singing Bird and she uses the word pretty. And then Singing Bird kind of brings that around later to describe something of Kirsten's as pretty. And I just thought that was really sweet.
So cute.
So one day, Kirsten goes to fetch some water during school because she had to recite like a poem or something by Miss Winston. She did a good job reciting something. And so she was like, you can go fetch the water today. Because I guess
that's a reward?
I guess so.
You go take the heavy water bucket and go get the water for everyone.
That's going to give
I'm so sorry.
All diarrhea. No.
Oh, maybe it's because it's like, whenever in school you would get like a hall pass to go like run something to the front office or whatever.
Yes.
And so you would just like fart around in the hall. Because you're like,
ding, ding, ding.
I'm trusted.
Ding, ding, ding. Because she does fart around. And she ends up running into Singing Bird. And so they start hanging out. But Singing Bird's like, hey, I need to tell you something. Like, my tribe is leaving. Like, there's not enough food in the area. We are going to go, but I want you to come with me." Because and Kirsten's like, can't leave her family because as much as like this friendship means to her, like she can't just like drop everything. I'm sure like she just
Yeah.
did that. And Singing Bird like refers to Kirsten as her sister and takes her hand.
I'm crying.
She's disappointed, but I think she ultimately understands it. But Singing Bird ends up leaving Kirsten with a parting gift, a
Aw.
bone needle, and tells Kirsten that if the deer return, like we will too. So, good news. Singing Bird does eventually return,
Aw.
but she is noticeably more thin. Her clothes don't fit quite the same way Kirsten notices. Her face is a little hollow.
Aw.
It's been really, really tough for her and her tribe, like being able to find food. And I think it's probably really tough, I would imagine, as a friend to see, like, oh my gosh, like this has been a really hard time for them.
Yeah.
Now that she's back, they want to make plans to hang out again. But we have a younger brother, okay? There's a lot of siblings I mentioned. One of them
Yes.
is Peter. Peter, the youngest brother, is a little
Yikes.
snitch. He's a little tattletale. What does
You
he
know
do?
what happens to
He-
snitches?
They get stitches. No, he ended up literally going and being like, "Mom, Kristen's hanging out with like this young indigenous girl. Like, try like what? Mom, she's," and you're like, "You can't do that, Kristen. You can't hang out with them. Like, why is
why?
he ruining this friendship? Because, like, literally, they're just this hostility towards each other. When I'm like, you're the ones that immigrated here. Hello."
I'm so sorry.
Well,
Take a step
anyone
back. Check
should
yourself.
Be afraid and frustrated. It should be them, not you. Peter tells their mom and she gets lectured. But meanwhile, Singing Bird's honestly like she's being lectured about the same thing too. Like, you shouldn't be hanging out with this girl. But at the end of the day, the friendship prevails,
Love prevails.
There is a perspective change for Kirsten's family when young Peter goes missing one day. And Kirsten ends up running into Singing Bird, and Singing Bird basically helps to find Peter. And so she's like, "Come back with me, like, to show my parents, like, we can tell them, like, hey, like, she helped us."
find him.
They come to the house and, they're like, first, like, "Oh my gosh, like, what are you doing here?" Peter's like, "No, she saved my life.
Yeah.
Like, Singing Bird saved my
Aw.
life." Then Mama invites Singing Bird to join them for snacks.
And then they had juice boxes and carrot sticks.
Some Capri Suns and some goldfish. It was bread and honey. At least they were taking a step trying to be more open-minded.
Yes.
And I do think at some point too, Kirsten got to actually like go visit Singing Bird's community and like meet some of her family as well too. So her relationship with Singing Bird ended up not being quite as tragic as Marta's, although Singing Bird's just experience in general, conversation for another time. They also never made a doll of Singing Bird, which I thought was so interesting because a lot of these girls got like besties to accompany them.
Yeah.
And I think that it seems like everyone pretty much agreed that that was like her bestie. Like over Marta, like Singing Bird was there for like a lot more of the story, a lot more of the books.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting that they never made like an official doll for
Did they
her.
make a doll bestie for her, or they just didn't make a bestie doll at all?
I just don't think they made a bestie at all.
Huh.
Yeah, because a lot of them, like Samantha was a historical doll and she got Nellie.
Yeah.
And I believe some of the other girls did as well. Unless Samantha was just special in more ways than one. I don't know.
Yeah, she was kind of like the at the top of the leaderboard.
Yeah, she really was. She had no trauma. Okay, so speaking of trauma, I have some more for you.
Not again.
So one day, Kirsten's older brother, Lars, is going out with one of the other, like their neighbors, John. He is going to start setting some traps to collect fur because they want to get fur.
Okay.
So, I'm sure
Like
at the time it was like
trade and
a trade,
money.
hot
Yeah,
commodity
yeah,
for
yeah.
money because, like I mentioned, her family lives like in a single room cabin and there's a lot of them. So they want to be able to eventually expand and just have a
Yeah.
bigger home. So
Upgrade the digs.
upgrade, okay? You can't just like mother load it like in The Sims. So Kirsten is asked to join with the boys. Lars is like, let her come along because she actually knows like animals really well. I think she'll be able to help us.
Oh, she can like track them.
Yeah.
She's a tracker.
Yeah. So she's like, they're going to check all the traps that they have set at this point. And they see that a raccoon, a small little
Okay.
raccoon, has got stuck. He's not dead. It's just his tail.
Oh.
And so, Kirsten just takes one look, and the brother was like, I didn't think it was like her to bring home a wild animal, but like she really wanted to help this little raccoon out and just like kind of nurse him back. So she ends up putting him in a box and bringing him back, and the mom is like, absolutely not. He can stay in the barn. And so she's like, fine. Well, it's starting to get kind of cold, and so she's like, I want to bring him into the cabin because I want to warm him up.
Oh no.
Well, little brother decides to open up the box, and Raccoon's got a little more pep in its step. Okay, he's been a little more docile up until this point because he was hurt. He ends up running out of the box. He's running all around. They're trying to catch him. He knocks over an oil lamp. The whole house
Up
sets
in
on
flames.
fire. Up in flames. The whole cabin is up in flames. So
wood
now,
cabin. What do you expect? Burning a fire in a wood cabin.
yeah, it's made of, no, literally it says made of split logs and has bare plank floor. One window.
Not the one window. Ooh, it's stank in there.
Oh,
It's stank in there. It's stank.
yeah.
There's
Yeah.
like 8 of them in there.
Yeah.
Where are they pooping and peeing outside? Huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's pioneer times.
Do they have
Okay.
like how they wipe their butts though?
I didn't
Like leaves?
research it that much.
You
I don't know what
should've,
was going around
Because I need to know about the stench in the cabin.
Okay. Just imagine that anyone before 1920 probably smelled pretty bad.
You never know. You never know. They could have gotten creative. Just kidding.
As if it wasn't traumatic enough that her family has now lost their home. Okay, so
Where's
let's just
this
recap.
uncle at?
He lives on it's his land. So I think he has his own property there. So they end up kind of moving in for a short period of time with him while they're trying to figure things out. Okay, so they're gonna go on another hunting excursion. Okay, Kirsten and her brother Lars are gonna go out. They're setting traps once again, but they end up spending a lot of time outside that day and don't realize how long they've truly been gone. And it's starting to get dark. And more importantly, it's starting to get cold.
Oh no.
So they're kind of trying to figure out, okay, we're not going to have enough time to make it home. We're going to have to figure out something else. Well, they end up seeing some snow boot tracks from someone they recognize. He goes by Old Jack. So they decide to follow them, okay, into a cave. And they know he's got to be close by.
So you're going to follow someone named Old Jack into a cave. Is this trauma story part 3?
They follow Old Man Jack's footprints, and instead of finding his cabin, they end up coming across this cave with a door and some rocks. But they notice snow is piled up, and so it seems like no one's come in or out for a while. But they really need to borrow a lantern and just figure this out because they're not going to make it home in time. They make their way in, they push through the door, and Old Man Jack is leaned up against the wall, just sitting, eyes open, and they gasp because they realize this man is frozen dead. So Kirsten and her brother happen upon an old, dead, frozen
body.
And Kirsten is
Does he live in a cave?
No, I think
so unclear.
He has a cabin, I believe, but I think he had this maybe to keep furs in or something. Their assumption is maybe he had a heart attack or something while he was in there and then ended up freezing to death. But guess what, Maddie? Old Man Jack sure had a knack for collecting fur, and he had lots of it. And by the looks of it, no one had come around for a while. So it seemed
So they stole the fur off of Old Man Jack's back?
Let me get to that point. They're trying to figure out what to do. Did he have anyone? They're I don't think he did. And so Kirsten is is this finders keepers? And her brother's kind of. Yeah, we're going to be able to take these furs for ourselves. And then come spring, Dad can give Old Man Jack a proper burial. But I'm how far away is spring?
They're just going to leave this man's body in there and take all the fur and sell it so they can build a new house.
But it gets worse.
Oh my God. No, wait.
It's getting so cold, Maddie. It's getting so cold. They
cut his body open?
not going to be able to make it home in time, okay? No, but they're able to close the door and they have to spend the night in the cave with the dead body.
Okay, that's not too bad.
Kirsten could not get any sleep.
That's not too bad. I thought they were gonna like cut open the dead body and make a
It's
skin
American
suit.
Girl dolls, may I
Make a
remind
skin
you?
suit.
It's traumatizing, but not that level.
Make a skin suit out of it and
No.
survive the winter.
They just had to sleep in a cave with a dead man. I'm sorry, it's not traumatic enough for you.
No, but it's so cold, doesn't smell or anything.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But it's just literally like, could you imagine being like a few feet away from a corpse having to like go to sleep? I'd be afraid that they're gonna like reach out and
In my mind, I would just be like, it's a mannequin, it's a mannequin, it's a mannequin, it's a mannequin.
I'm surviving, I'm surviving, I'm surviving, I'm surviving.
I think I would have to fall asleep because I'd be like so scared that I have to like stress sleep.
Okay, well I have some good news. You remember
He
how
was
their house
actually
burned down?
alive?
No,
Oh.
that is not the good news. When you want to hear the story? Okay, so they take the furs, right? What? Why are you rolling your eyes at me?
No, I'm not rolling my eyes. I'm just going.
Bombastic side eye. That's what it was. Okay.
All right, finish the story. Finish the story. Are you gonna finish the story, Megan?
Whatever. Okay, so Kirsten and her brother take back the furs to her family, and they are able to sell the furs for enough money to buy the Stewart's home, a family that is moving to Oregon. So they now have a home, which is great because their home burned down.
And it was
So all it took was old man Jack croaking and dying, and the
Stealing the
trauma of
fur.
the kids, coming across the dead frozen corpse. Yes, stealing the fur, bringing it back, and her whole family's life changed from that point on. They got to finally have a house big enough for all of them.
You know what though? It makes sense. It's only fair that she had to sleep next to a corpse because she is the reason her family's house burned down in the first place because she brought a raccoon into the house.
Or is it all Peter? Is that his name? The snitch.
The snitch.
So that's
I'm just saying.
I was like, that's a little bit about Kirsten Larson's life.
Mine was
Back to back trauma.
0% trauma.
Your story was super wholesome. I couldn't believe the amount of things that Kirsten went through. At least these were like the top kind of points.
Friend pooped herself to death.
Yeah.
She burned down her own home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Had to sleep next to a corpse.
Plus just like the kind of tense dynamic in relationship of keeping a friendship with Singing Bird. Like just
Yeah.
because of the way that everyone
Viewed each other.
viewed
yeah.
each other and didn't accept it. But she, another fun fact, loved quilting. She loved quilting. She was a quilting girl.
Who
I'll
has
leave
the
you on that
time,
note.
though? Who has the time? When you're burning down houses and finding dead people.
When I tell you that I haven't watched it yet, but I'm so curious because you had touched on this a bit. There is someone that I saw had like a 5.5 hour like deep dive on Kirsten. Like that's when we tell you it can get detailed. Well, because people
It's
also will
wild.
dive into like, which I think is really interesting, like what was going on in history at this
During
time.
the time, yeah.
Like what was going on in the rest of the world. Like what does this mean here? How does this relate to? Yeah. So I just think it's really fascinating.
Yeah, and we are definitely not history buffs here
No.
at the Fuzzy Pod. We focus on feelings.
We're all about fuzzy feelings and nostalgia. And American Girl Doll was a huge part of that.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you for sharing, Megan, and
Yeah.
trauma dumping
Mm-hmm.
on us.
Yes, of
about
course.
all that.
Oh, Marta.
So now that we can go into our weekends just feeling emotional. So thank you for that. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to leave us a comment. Let us know what your favorite American Girl doll was, too.
Yes.
We'd love to hear from you guys. You can also follow us on Instagram at the Fuzzy Pod and leave us a rating and review if you're enjoying the pod. We really, really appreciate it. We love you guys.
Thanks for being here, and we'll see you next Fuzzy Friday.
Bye.